Welcome back into the Dynasty Nerds YouTube page. I am your host, Garrett Price, and today we are going to be discussing wide receiver tiers. A couple weeks ago, we looked at running backs, and of course, these are things that get very heavily debated over the course of time. So I want to start out with a couple caveats to start things off. First of all, these are not necessarily rankings. These are tiers. Sometimes I might have a player above or below that guy, but they end up being in the same tier. I'll try to explain closer to my rankings as we go, but just so you know, it is tiers, not rankings. Second of all, just because a player lands in the F tier does not mean they're a bad player. These are the top 32 wide receivers. These are all very good players, players that are startable assets, if not elite assets on your team. So just because they end up in the F tier doesn't mean that they're a bad player. They're just not quite up to snuff with some of the other players. Hey guys, real quick, before we get into the next thing, I want to make sure that you guys hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. I know it's annoying when we ask for it, but it really does help the channel and helps us move up those fantasy football algorithms on YouTube. So please consider liking and subscribing to this channel. Let's start off with second-year wide receiver, Arizona Cardinal, Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. did not have the amazing year one that many people thought he potentially could. But over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns is still a very good season. He's still incredibly young and has a ton of time to develop into that Davante Adams type of wide receiver for fantasy football. I still can't stick him in the top tier, and it's tough. The difference when I kind of made these tiers, the difference between my A tier and my B tier was probably the closest gap of all of them, but I had to split hairs somewhere, and I just couldn't see myself drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. over top of anyone that I put in the A tier, and I try to have scenarios where I could at least see myself 1 out of 10 times considering drafting a player. If not, they don't belong in the same tier. I just wasn't quite there with Marvin Harrison Jr., so he ended up in the B tier. Next up, we have Drake London, and I did put him inside of that A tier. He had a great year last year with Michael Penix, and he just kind of proved what Marvin Harrison didn't last year. So Marvin Harrison has time to climb, obviously, but Drake London, with Michael Penix, he looked good with him. He is the main cog in this offense right now in the passing game, and he is a player that I would fully trust as my wide receiver one on a contending team right now. So I feel really good to put him as my wide receiver one inside the A tier. Next up, we have Zay Flowers, and I do think I am closer to being a truther for Zay Flowers than I am anything else, but I still couldn't put him very high up. Right now, I do have him in the D tier. I think he's a good player with a lot of upside, but I think this offense just hasn't really fully unlocked him yet. And with how many targets the tight ends get, it really cuts into his potential boom volume on a team that doesn't pass the ball as often as others. You put him on a team that's throwing 550, 600 times a year, well, then maybe he's up a tier or two. But for right now, I have to put him in the D tier. We got our first rookie that we're going to discuss here, Tetairoa McMillan. And this is actually the smallest tier of all of them, but I am putting him inside my C tier. Right now, this is a tier of rookies and or superstars that aren't quite superstars. And I'll explain what I mean in a second. But right now, he's going to go in my C tier. I like that he's the number one option in this offense. I do have some concerns about his ability to separate. This isn't quite as good of a class at wide receiver as we had last year, but I do think he's still a very talented player that deserves to be in this type of conversation, so I'm putting him in the C tier. Next up, we have DJ Moore, and this breaks my heart a little bit, but for right now, I'm going to have to put him in the F tier. He's a player that is getting up there a little bit in years. Still not an old player, but definitely in his prime right now and trending the wrong direction. He's also in an offense that should be a good offense, but is incredibly, incredibly crowded. And it would not be a shock to see this team maybe move on from DJ Moore in a year or so if Odunze develops, Luther Burden develops, Colston Loveland develops. We're going to have to see how all these things shake out. But long term, I just don't know that he's going to bring back the same value that we saw from him in a Bears uniform a couple seasons ago. So because of that, I'm putting DJ Moore in the F tier. That gives me our next Chicago Bears wide receiver, and I'm bumping him up one tier ahead of his counterpart. I am putting him in the D tier. A lot of the same things. The difference is he's just got age on his side. There's a lot of opportunity for him to still develop, grow into the player that we think he could be. So you could almost copy and paste a lot of the same things. Just the difference is I think they're similarly talented, but one guy has a lot of years left for Dynasty, and the other guy just doesn't. This is an easy one. Slam dunk. Ja'Marr Chase, S tier. He is a true, legitimate, bona fide stud. This guy has been a wide receiver one every single year he has played football. And because of that, there's nowhere else he should go but in the S tier. We have Ja'Marr Chase's teammate, and I mentioned this tier with some young guys and superstars that aren't quite superstars, and that's T. Higgins to me. T. Higgins on a per-game basis looked amazing last year, and we've seen at times him absolutely dominate because of the volume that this offense has, but he's missed some time, and we just don't know where he's going to be after this season. So there's just a lot of question marks. He's not quite young anymore either, but he is truly in his prime right now. So for that, he kind of lives in the middle ground, and I'm going to put him in the C tier. I wanted to put this guy a tier higher, but we've only seen it for 1 year, and we do have a change at quarterback. So for right now, Jerry Jeudy is going to go in the F tier for me. This is not because Jerry Jeudy's a bad player that I'm uninterested in. No, I'm very interested in him. And I think there's an outside chance that he could even repeat as a wide receiver one, however unlikely it might be. That being said, there is just enough going on in Cleveland to worry me a little bit about him really being able to sustain that volume, and the question marks at quarterback. All of these things put him in the F tier for me. We've got our second S tier wide receiver, and that is Mr. CeeDee Lamb. I think many people have moved on from him. I've seen him go wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, wide receiver even 7. I've seen him go in startups, which I think is absurd. He is still an absolute stud. Dak Prescott should be back and healthy this year, and he's just 1 year removed from being the number 1 overall wide receiver in fantasy football. Let's not get cute. He doesn't belong in the A tier. He is an S tier guy through and through. We've got a lot of teammates in a row here, and we've got another one, and this one is Mr. George Pickens. He's clearly in the F tier. He doesn't belong in the tiers with these other guys, but there was an argument to be made before that he doesn't even make the show. But moving to Dallas, he's got an opportunity with Dak Prescott that is going to get him the football. This is the best duo that they've had since CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. And for a while, we've all seen the talent of George Pickens. It's what's going on mentally for him. How consistent can he become? All of these things we'll find out in Dallas. But on pure upside alone in Dynasty, I think there's enough there to still keep him in this show as a top 30-something guy, and he's going to be here inside my F tier. We've got another S tier player, and we're going to Detroit and looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown. This kid's just been so freaking good. After going as a 4th rounder, instantly everyone was like, whoops, we made a mistake. And he has been an absolute superstar in this league. He is still going to be the main focal point in this passing attack, even with the great Ben Johnson no longer there. Jared Goff's still there. Dan Campbell's still there, who's an offensive-minded coach, played tight end for many, many years. This will be just fine. He is still going to get the targets. He is still going to get the volume, and he's still going to do some really, really good things with it. So let's keep Amon-Ra where he should be in the S tier. Next up, we have Nico Collins. And Nico Collins was somebody that was kind of tempting to flirt with S tier for me. But with his injury last year, we just didn't see the second year of full monster points, volume, that kind of stuff. But I could see him potentially entering that tier this year. He is all alone in that offense as far as a true bona fide receiver. We'll see what some of these other players do, how they step up. Christian Kirk's there, the 2 rookies, and Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Those guys are there. But I think the targets are going to be massive for Nico Collins. Last year on a per game basis, he was one of the more heavily targeted players in the league. I don't think anything changes this year with CJ Stroud, and he's in the A tier for now, but he is ever so close to becoming an S tier guy. We have another A tier player as a guy that was a rookie last year, but he proved that he deserved it. Through the season, he finished overall as wide receiver 4 in total points, a little lower in points per game, but still 4 overall in total points. Had a monster season. I do think that there's going to be a little more target competition this year, although this offense should be a little bit better. So we're going to have to see how all of these things play out for Brian Thomas. But Brian Thomas proved as a rookie that he is already one of the better wide receivers in the game and absolutely deserving already of being in the A tier. Next up, we have his teammate, Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, I mentioned rookies and almost superstars in tier C, and that's where he belongs. He's going to go into that tier with those two other guys, T. Higgins and Tetairoa McMillan. I like Travis Hunter a lot. On raw skills and ability, he's a monster. But trying to focus on both sides of the ball is a tall task for a player like Travis Hunter. So that does worry me a little bit. And we're just going to have to see, how do the targets actually work out in this offense? Is it a 1A, 1B? Is there a clear 1 and a clear 2? I don't know how all of that is going to quite work out, but I know that he's an offense that should be a pretty high value offense now that Liam Cohen is there. And I think it's a team that could be pretty good. So Trevor Lawrence hasn't impressed me much, but he has an opportunity here with two really good wide receivers to really elevate his game. Let's head over to Kansas City, and we got ourselves a B tier player here in Rashee Rice. I could easily see this guy ascending into the A tier, and he was on pace to do that after what we saw at the beginning of the last year. He looked unstoppable in this offense. Fortunately, the injury, that bumped him down a tier because we're just not always 100% sure how guys are going to be able to recover from those injuries. But assuming he comes back fine, I expect him to ascend tiers, even with Xavier Worthy there. Yes, Xavier Worthy's a fine player, a fine asset, but I don't think he's anybody that threatens Rashee Rice as the wide receiver 1 on this team. So for me, Rashee Rice, he comes in there in the B tier. Got another B tier guy for me here, Ladd McConkey. Man, I was really tempted to put Ladd inside of that A tier. He just missed it. But overall, I still feel very, very good about Ladd McConkey. Here's a player that tied for the final spot as far as being a top 12 wide receiver. Him and Jerry Jeudy tied for it last year. I don't see any real threat to him being able to do something like that again this year. He's got the tools. He's got the offense. Yes, Trey Harris is going to be involved, but if anything, that's more to take the top off the defense and allow things to be more open for him underneath. Justin Herbert's a great quarterback, and this team really seemed to trend in, even though they've been known for their running attack, they were trending in the direction of passing a little bit more heavy and a little more effectively over the course of the season. We've got another guy that could make an argument to bump up a tier. I have Puka Nacua in the A tier for me. Really, really talented player going into his 3rd season. Yes, Devontae Adams is in this offense, but it's going to be very similar to what Cooper Kupp was doing in this offense. Yes, taking some targets away, but they really funnel targets to both of those two players. And so now it's going to be Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua getting those targets. But this is a player that proved that year 1 was not a fluke. He is a legitimate NFL wide receiver that can play underneath, make big plays, run after the catch. All of that is truly legit. I wasn't sold right away, but man, it is hard to deny what he did last season, coming off injury and just picked up right where he left off. So Puka Nacua there for me in my A tier. There's some people that would put this guy in the D tier, and on his ADP right now, I'm not even sure many people would put him on the list, but I have this guy in the D tier for me, and that's Jaylen Waddle. I think Jaylen Waddle is an asset right now that has just been depressed way too far, especially with the news of Jonnu Smith moving on. I think we're going to see his ADP rise, and I think his value is going to rise, and I think he's going to have a really good season. The thing that was missing was just targets. trying to funnel targets to 4 assets was really, really difficult last year. Take Jonnu Smith out of the equation. Now we see a little tick up for Jaylen Waddle, for Tyreek Hill, and for Devon Achane, which I think only spells good news for fantasy football production. I've got this player just barely in the F tier, but I have Jordan Addison there. I wanted to put him in the D tier, but the problem is this is a tier kind of full of guys that still just have something to prove or something that holds them back. For him, it's all of the other passing game options on this team. Right now, you have Justin Jefferson, you have TJ Hawkinson. Those are players that are going to get quite a few targets. And right now, Addison has those big games, those big moments, but he also has a lot of games where we just don't see a ton out of him. So that holds him back just enough for him to be an F tier player for me. Speaking of a guy on that team getting targets, Justin Jefferson, no need to discuss it or debate it. He is an absolute S-tier asset. Other than his injury-riddled season, we have seen nothing but wide receiver 1 seasons and top-tier wide receiver 1 seasons from Justin Jefferson. So easy peasy, put him in S-tier. Man, I have a hard time figuring out what to do with this guy. I know he's shown flashes, but he's also been injured a lot and is in a bad offense. So for right now, I'm going to put Chris Olave in the D tier. I was tempted to even put him in the F tier, but it just felt a little too cold and a little too far. But I am just not sure what to do with this guy. Not a player that really profiles as that alpha X type of receiver. It's not a great offense at this point, and we don't even 100% know who the quarterback's going to be. Maybe it's Tyler Shuck, who is a fine player, but I have some real concerns about this player and this team. So for me, Chris Olave, we're going with the D tier. I think this could be a little rich for some people. I am absolutely putting Malik Nabers into the S tier. What he showed as a rookie last year, being an early pick, all of the production on a per game basis, and just this being an offense where he's clearly the go-to guy. There is no one to compete with for targets. Malik Nabers, a great asset, and he's got the youth on his side. All the other S-tier guys are 4th, 5th year type of players, 6th year type of players. He's going into his 2nd. So that's something that really gets you excited, is the extra youth that you have on your side with Malik Nabers. I think a lot of people are down on this guy a little bit. I still have Garrett Wilson in the A tier. And I know it's Justin Fields at quarterback, but let's remember, DJ Moore, he had his best season with Garrett Wilson. So I'm not really concerned about Garrett Wilson. He showed us last year that he was able to be a wide receiver 1, and there's just nobody there to compete with for targets. He's a player that I think could, even though he's kind of at the bottom of that A tier, I think could ascend into the top of that A tier and maybe even sniff S tier if everything goes right this season. Feels wrong to put this guy here because of all of the amazing seasons that we've gotten out of him. But right now, I have A.J. Brown in the B tier. I want to put him higher. I do. But he is starting to get up there a little bit in years. This offense was crazy efficient last year. It's going to be hard to replicate some of that. And we've seen him be a little bit dinged up here and there at times. So it's just enough with all of those things together to put A.J. Brown in the B tier. He's the top dog there. Well, that's not even true. I have McConkey as the top dog there, but he's right up there, but I have to put him in the B tier. His teammate didn't go to the B tier or the C tier. We moved him down to the D tier, and I love DeVonta Smith as a player, and I think as an NFL asset, he is amazing. Maybe you could argue top 15, top 12 type receiver just on talent and ability on a different team in a different situation. But for fantasy, he's more of that low-end wide receiver 2 than that high-end wide receiver 2. And so for me, I've got to put him there in the D tier. DK Metcalf snuck into my D tier. I wanted to put him into the F tier, but I think that there's still some opportunity for him as being the featured guy in this offense. We don't know what his long-term outlook is. We don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to keep playing forever. And honestly, we don't even know for sure if he's still going to be good this year. But there's just going to be so many targets that I think he'll be just fine this season. So I am going to put him into the D tier. This kid broke out last year, and I think he's about to have another monster season. We've got Jaxon Smith-Njigba, absolutely A-tier player. Look, DK Metcalf's gone. I get that Cooper Kupp's there, but I don't think that's going to factor heavy into what's going to happen for this guy this year. The target share should go up, and I think he's going to get a little more lucky in the touchdown department. That's just going to mean great news for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. We've got some lower tier guys to wrap up this show. 4 more guys. We've got Brandon Aiyuk here. He is in the F tier for me. Could he get back up into that D tier? Maybe he could. Depends on the injury. Depends on if he's even still with this team. There's just a lot going on with Brandon Aiyuk right now that it's tough to kind of figure out how to really value him. But overall, we know that he has lost a ton of value in fantasy football terms. So for right now, I think he's pretty safely in the F tier. Chris Godwin, I put him into the D tier. I know there's going to be other people that put him in the F tier. I put him in the D tier simply because this is the same team, the same offense, where he was on pace to be the wide receiver 1 overall. He was crushing it to begin the season. Obviously, Jamar Chase just had a bonkers year. I don't know that he would have been able to finish ahead of him, but he was right there step for step with him all season until his injury. So Chris Godwin, a player that I still think has 2, 3, 4 good years left in him, and I think some of those years could be really special. We got another Tampa Bay guy, Emeka Egbuka. For right now, I've got to put him in the F tier, but man, it would not surprise me if we see a Jaxon Smith-Njigba like ascension for this guy, where he soon ends up as a B tier type player. So he does a lot of things right. He's in a good offense. Going to have to wait for some time for things to kind of clear up a little bit and him to get the targets he needs. Last but not least, Terry McLaurin. I do have him in the F tier. This is simply on age. I know he was a wide receiver 1 last year. He's still going to get some volume, but how much longer does he have left? Now Debo's there, and that's going to cut into his target share a little bit too. So I think there's just enough smoke there to where I can't quite put Terry McLaurin in the D or C tier anymore. He's going to be an F tier guy for me. All right, guys, that wraps things up. Let me know who you have as your A tier guy, your B tier guy, all the way down. I want to hear who I missed, who I got right. Let me know in the comments below.